Now it's time to take things over to the sweeter side of things and advance the technique with Cranberry Chocolate Focaccia Twists. These are individual treats. You can enjoy them for breakfast or maybe for an afternoon snack. Now, the starting point is the same recipe for focaccia dough that I made by hand earlier, except a half recipe to yield 12 individual twists. Turn the dough out onto a floured surface, and I need to shape this into a rectangle again. A little flatter than the first focaccia sheets that I made earlier. And that is how we call them, sheets of focaccia when they're that big. The rectangle should be about 12 by 16 inches. There we go. Now, the dough is still a little bit tacky to the touch. So if you want to sprinkle anything on, now's the time to do it. To make things sweeter, I've got half a cup of chopped dried cranberries and half a cup of chocolate chips. So I sprinkle this only on half of the dough because I'm going to fold it over. Just a nice even layer. And when choosing your chocolate for baking, I like to use a dark chocolate. Now, I'll fold over the dough, being careful not to get air pockets in there. And give it a little press, just with a little roll of the pin. And now that I've got some filling in there, you can use a pastry cutter or a knife. And I want to cut 12 rectangles. Just be prepared because you do have the chocolate chips in there. You might have to cut through them. Then across by 3. There we go. Now, the next trick is using a paring knife to make an incision right in the center. Don't want to cut through either side. Then to make the twist, take the top portion, bring it through the incision, and there you have a beautiful twist. Once this rises up again, oh, it looks like the work of a professional. I'll bring over my parchment-lined baking trays, and you have to leave space for these twists to expand. So I'll only put 6 on each tray. So now you've opened yourself up. This is for both shaping and for fillings. You could change it from cranberry chocolate to simply cinnamon and raisins. You could add pecans. Just about anything you'd find in a breakfast or snacking pastry. And you do want to see a little of the chocolate and cranberry peeking out. Now that I've got my 12 twists, just like any yeast dough, you have to let them rise. But because they're now smaller in shapes, it only takes an hour for these to double in size. So here they are after rising up. So you can see how they've filled in and that twist really starts to show through. Now, of course, remember, this focaccia dough recipe has no sugar added to it. So the only sweetness now is a little bit from the chocolate and the dried cranberries. So what I want to do is actually put on a sweet glaze. So to do that, I'll start with a 1/4 cup of white corn syrup. That way it's got a nice clear color to it. And I need to heat that up with 3 tablespoons of water and a splash of vanilla. And I just need to warm it up barely to a simmer. It's just to combine the corn syrup and the water together. There we go. It hardly takes any time. So with a pastry brush, put a nice even layer over each of the twists. Be gentle when brushing now. There we go. For the finishing touch, to add a bit of polish, I'm going to take some turbinado sugar. This is a coarse grind brown sugar, along with a pinch of cinnamon. A little stir with your fingers and a generous sprinkle on top. So on top of the natural crust that you get when you bake focaccia, you've got the added crunch of the turbinado sugar. And because of the sugar glaze, I have the oven temperature lower so that it doesn't burn. I've preheated the oven to 375. These will take about 20 minutes to turn a rich golden brown. Here they are. Set that tray to cool. And here's a tray to show you what they look like. They look so nice. You can see the shine on there. And of course, they'll have the crunch of the turbinado sugar on top. Now, the hard part is to actually wait. Letting it sit 10 to 20 minutes, you're gonna get that ideal fresh baked consistency.